This is my camera of choice for 2023 for so many reasons. The Lumix S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIX are incredibly well-packed cameras, and I've used everything from Canons to Sonys to everything in between, and I'm going to tell you guys the 12 things that I love about this camera and one reason that you might not want to buy. And we're doing a giveaway of one of these super cool Bluetti mobile power units, and I'm going to show you how I use this thing for my productions when you're out and about in the middle of nowhere. So stay tuned on how you can win that, but let's get into the 12 reasons why I think you should be looking at Lumix this year. Alright, so let's start with some of the obvious things like video codecs. You have up to 6K footage with the Lumix S5 Mark II. You have 4K 10-bit 422 output, which just means that there's a ton of color retention. In my opinion, compared to the Sonys or the Canons, the image is absolutely gorgeous. It's incredibly easy to use. If you want to upgrade to the S5 IIX, you have raw HDMI output. You can record straight to the USB if you're using massive file sizes, and they've even included all intra codecs on the S5 IIX and ProRes. So if you guys are looking to do professional high-end color grading, this camera is going to have you covered. Now, on top of having a full-size HDMI output and USB output on this thing, these cameras also have dual card slots, which a lot of people want to make sure that they have redundancies in their data or being able to continuously record from one card to the other. And that's just point two, guys. There's so many more reasons. Another one is 14 plus stops of dynamic range. So having 14 stops of dynamic range and being able to utilize all this latitude was one of the massive selling points for me, and the incredible amount of highlight retention that this has compared to some of the other S-logs or log profiles. V-log retains highlights like no one's business, and it's so easy to bring the details back. I think it's a really creamy, easy to color grade V-log profile. Now, because I'm an automotive photographer, I'm often strapping my camera to a car, and having good in-body image stabilization is absolutely crucial, and the Lumix S5, S5 II, and S5 IIX are absolutely incredible at in-body image stabilization. I would say that they are the industry leaders in this. You sometimes can't tell whether you're using a gimbal or just going handheld with this. And I mean, if we drive with a lowered BRZ, this thing is on coilovers and this is a bumpy road. Can you guys see any bumps? I can see the camera shaking a little bit, but I don't know, you guys tell me. Now, the next point that I have for you guys is dual native ISO. When I had the Canon R6, this is something that it did not have and that I find hugely valuable. So the Lumix S5 II has a dual native ISO of 640 and 4000. So where this came in super handy is obviously low light situations. Having a dual native ISO is amazing. But secondly, like, I would use that in things like real estate when you get down to a dark, dingy basement and you still have to be able to capture it and make it look bright and beautiful. It comes in handy in so many situations, and I know that the Sonys have that as well, but the Canon R6 did not have that, and I find that this camera almost matches the best Sony cameras when it comes to low light performance. So that's a huge plus in a camera that's typically either $500 less or thousands of dollars less than the industry leading low light cameras. So Lumix has a big up there. So what about autofocus? Have they fixed it? Phase detect autofocus is now in the Lumix S5 Mark II and the S5 Mark IIX. Honestly, this has been one of the biggest changes in my opinion from having the S5. The S5 was still using only contrast detect autofocus, which in my opinion wasn't really trustworthy. All right, next on the list is professional video features. It's crazy how much they've crammed into these tiny bodies, but they have things like waveforms, focus peaking, and an absolute plethora, an abundance of other professional video features that you would find in higher level cinema cameras like the R5C or C200, and they're all customizable to buttons that are easy to get to. And that actually leads me to my next point, which is customization in the C1, C2, and C3 custom presets. When I had the Canon R6 Mark I, you could not do custom video presets, which was kind of a deal breaker, honestly. For a lot of us, we're running and gunning and we're shooting content as quickly and efficiently as we can. And if you don't have the presets that you're using on an everyday basis to be able to switch from, let's call it slow motion on your C2 to 24 frames per second on your C1 preset, if you don't have that, it's no bueno. You can't go with it. And that was a big reason why I actually switched over from the Canon R6 to the Lumix S5 at the time, was having those presets available. Another feature that these cameras have is open gate. A lot of people are using the open gate feature, utilizing the full sensor of the frame in order to film once and then be able to create that content for social media at 9:16 and also for horizontal formats like YouTube, for example. And you can also use it for anamorphic. So they have built into the camera de-squeeze functionality, so that if you're using an anamorphic lens, a professional cinema lens, you guys can de-squeeze that footage and see what you're creating right in the camera. Now, another great feature that I love is that Lumix has created a whole line of lenses. And the ones that I have are the 35 and the 85mm. Now what's great about these is that they are the exact same size and weight. So if you wanted to mount your camera on a gimbal, you can mount your camera and change your lenses without having to rebalance your gimbal. So here's the beauty of it. You just put the gimbal to sleep, you can switch over the lens, there you go. You now have a new lens that weighs exactly the same, but is a totally different focal length, has the same diameter, so everything is the same when you cross over these lenses, which makes it so handy when you are going to use a gimbal. Now, have you ever made the mistake of getting out on a shoot and realizing that either your phone's dead or your batteries are dying or you've been flying the drone too much and you didn't charge all your batteries? Well, that's where our giveaway comes in. So this is the Bluetti EB70S portable power unit, and they want to give one to you. So leave your Instagram handle down in the comments section down below, and within a week, we'll get in contact with one of you guys on Instagram to give you guys the Bluetti portable power unit. As you can see, I'm able to charge my drone batteries. I'm able to charge my Ronin if I didn't have it charged long enough. There's a charging pad on the top of this thing. You can power a light source. I've even got a light out here. It's absolutely incredible what this thing is capable of. So if you ever forget to charge your batteries on set or need a mobile lighting solution, check out Bluetti. These guys are awesome. So also they're doing a 25% off sale from these dates. So if you guys are interested, go check it out. So one of my last points while we're out here is that these all have fans in them. So the Lumix S5iii and the S5iiX now have built-in fans, which is a huge upgrade from the S5 or from the Canon R6 or many of the other cameras that tend to overheat. These cameras can run for a very, very long time shooting 4K or 6K without that 30-minute time code limit. Now the last thing that I want to talk about is the photos on this. It has a 24 megapixel photo that you can shoot in RAW, and I actually find that the RAW photos are absolutely beautiful, and they have a lot of like a Sony-like quality in that they have a lot of details still in the shadows and great low light capability coming out of the S5 Mark II. Actually, all the S5 cameras are incredible in that sense. I really enjoy them. So if you're a hybrid shooter looking for photo and video capabilities, these ones kind of check all the boxes. Now, I did tell you there is one major con that could be a deal breaker for you, and that is that when you are shooting in 4K 60, it is cropped 1.5 times. And when you're shooting at 120 frames per second, you can only shoot in HD. You can shoot both full frame 60 and full frame 120, but only in 1080p. Now, this might be a deal breaker for some of you, but for me, it wasn't a deal breaker. Most of the content that I use is going to clients or customers that are going to watch it on their phone or using it for social media or for YouTube, and a lot of people aren't going to be putting it up on their big screen. And even if it is on the big screen, how many of us can actually tell if it's 1080p? Are we actually looking at the screen being like, ah man, the quality just isn't quite there on that 4K footage? In fact, most people are trying to put lenses in front of their lenses that takes away sharpness these days. So you really have to consider if that's a deal breaker for you, because in 60 frames per second and 120 frames per second, you can still do 422 and there's 10-bit. So it's still very, very high quality. You're still retaining a ton of the colors. So the sharpness is really the only issue. And can you Can you really tell? Now, I want to recognize that a lot of you guys are probably inside of an ecosystem that doesn't allow you to get away from your lenses, that you've bought these $3,000, $4,000 lenses for your Sony cameras. And that's again where these lenses are so affordable that you can get a Lumix S5 Mark II body and a 35mm lens and a DJI Ronin RS Mini for the same price as the A7S III body. That's crazy. So I highly recommend considering what your needs are, where you're going to be posting to most of the time, and unless you're an absolute big professional guy, then you're probably looking at a different price range anyway. But for 90% of us, I do think that these cameras have enough features and functions and capability in them to make our content creating life actually quite easy and enjoyable. The price point is significantly lower than the competitors, $500 US less than the Canon R6 Mark II, $500 less than the A7R4. So I'll be leaving links for all this stuff down below, and if you guys enjoyed this, consider subscribing. You might like this video here, and I do hope I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.